You ever wonder what really separates the traders who make consistent money from, well, everyone else? We kind of picture these market wizards with some kind of crystal ball, but the truth? It's way more disciplined and honestly a lot more interesting than that. So let's get into it. Let's open up the professional playbook and figure out the secret to their success. And trust me, it's not what you think.
So let's just start with this statement right here, because it seems to break all the rules. The source material tells us that many of the absolute best traders out there have actually lost on more trades than they've won. I mean, that sounds completely backward, doesn't it?
And that leads us to the big question we're going to unpack here. How on earth is that possible? How can you lose more often than you win and still come out on top? It just seems to defy basic logic.
Well, the answer isn't some secret, magic trading signal. It's a really robust, disciplined framework that's built on three core pillars that all work together. This is the foundation that lets the pros play the long game and turn that exact paradox into profit.
Okay, let's kick things off with the first, and I'd argue the most important pillar, the one that everything else is built on, this almost fanatical obsession with protecting your capital.
See, for a professional, the number one job isn't making money. It's not losing the money they've already got. It's simple, right? You can't play the game if you run out of chips. Your capital is your lifeblood, and you have to protect it at all costs. And this brings us to a really concrete rule. A super common guideline for the pros is to never, ever risk more than 1 to 2% of their entire trading capital on any single trade. And listen, that's not a suggestion. It's a hard and fast rule. This isn't just some vague idea either. It's a routine. Step 1, you figure out your position size based on that 1 to 2% rule. Step 2, before you even click buy, you decide on your exact exit point if the trade goes south. That's your stop loss. And step 3, you stick to it, no matter what. No exceptions.
And this quote really gets to the heart of why those strict rules are so crucial. As the trader Peter Brandt puts it, trading is a constant fight against our own emotions, fear, hope, greed, all of it. These rules are the mechanical system that protects you from your own worst instincts. All right, now let's look at how this all works out on paper. Pillar 2 is the math that underpins this entire strategy. These aren't just random rules somebody made up. They are grounded in solid statistical logic that can ensure profitability in the long run.
And that brings us to this key concept, expected value, or EV. Just think of it like this. It's the average profit or loss you can expect from each trade if you did that same type of trade hundreds of times. If your EV is positive, your strategy is a long-term winner.
So the whole idea is captured in this simple but really powerful formula. Your expected value equals your win percentage times your average win minus your loss percentage times your average loss. It's all a balance. It shows you that your win rate is only part of the story. The size of your wins and losses is just as important, if not more so.
Okay, this right here really brings that formula to life. I mean, look at this. You've got 2 losses, right? They add up to $1,800 in the red. But then one single win pulls in $3,000. So your win rate is what, 33%? Pretty terrible, right? But the net profit is a solid $1,200. That is the math of success in action. Now, on the flip side of that coin is what's called the risk of ruin. This is the cold, hard, mathematical probability that a string of losses, which, by the way, is statistically guaranteed to happen eventually, will just wipe you out completely. That 1 to 2% rule we talked about, it's specifically designed to keep your risk of ruin as close to zero as humanly possible. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, which, honestly, a lot of pros will tell you is the hardest one to master. It's the internal game. It's all about cultivating a very specific psychological state known as the trader's mindset. This table just captures it perfectly. The amateur is on an emotional roller coaster, they're driven by fear and greed, they need to be right, and they tie their self-worth to every single trade. The professional, on the other hand, is disciplined, calm, and focused not on being right, but on being profitable over the long haul. They don't fight the market, they flow with it. So what does that mindset actually look like? Well, it means you truly accept risk. You treat wins and losses with the same emotional calm. You take total responsibility for your results. You never, ever feel like a victim of the market. And you are committed to constantly getting better. This quote from the legendary trader Ed Seykota it forces you to stop and think for a second. What do you really want from the market? Are you there for the excitement, the drama, the ego boost of being right? Or are you there to patiently and dispassionately run a strategy that has a positive expectancy? A really great analogy for this actually comes from the world of professional poker. The best poker players know you can make the absolute perfect decision and still lose the hand just due to bad luck. The key is to become a great loser, to completely separate the quality of your decision from the randomness of the outcome. So how do you do that? Well, here's a practical tool that's adapted from poker psychology. It's called the A to C analysis, and it lets you objectively grade your own performance based on your mental state and how well you executed your strategy, totally separate from whether you won or lost money. For a trader, this means you can have a losing day and still know for a fact that you played your A game because you followed your process perfectly. Okay, so let's tie all three of these pillars together. When you combine disciplined risk management, the math of positive expectancy, and the trader's mindset, you get to a single, really powerful philosophy, focusing on your process over the outcome. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this. The amateur is obsessed with the result of this one trade, right now. The professional is obsessed with the quality of their decisions and how well they stick to their proven plan, because they know that if the process is solid, the positive results will just take care of themselves over time. And that leaves us with one final and, I think, crucial question you have to ask yourself. Is your goal to feel the temporary thrill of winning a single trade, or is it to master the complex, challenging, and ultimately rewarding game of probabilities? Because the answer to that question, it changes everything.